First, though, to the Finance Minister, Matthias Cormann, who joins me now from Perth. Thanks very much for your time. After the leaders' talks yesterday at COAG, there was no agreement on tax reform. Has the government's plans for tax reform, including the states, stalled?
Well, the conversation is obviously ongoing, and we've set ourselves a deadline to bring this conversation to a conclusion in the first quarter of 2016. So, at the moment, it's essentially just what it was before. We're continuing to explore explore various options, and obviously the objective is to improve our tax system to make it more growth friendly. So that we can facilitate stronger growth and stronger job creation.
So if you don't have a deal by March, what happens then? Clearly the government has plans to go it alone. Could those plans include, for example, a GST, or do you need the states on board for that?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves. Obviously our preference is to achieve a consensus with state and territory governments around how our tax system can be improved and how we can make it more growth friendly. But by the same token, if it's in the end, if it's not possible to achieve a consensus, obviously we'll have to make judgments on what we can sensibly do ourselves within our respective jurisdictions to improve our tax system.
The South Australian plan to lift the GST to 15% and then give a portion of income tax collected by the federal government to the states seems to be the preferred option. That's going to be modelled by the treasurers. Is that correct? Is it all right to frame it as the preferred option?
Well, that is the proposal put forward by the South Australian Premier. The Commonwealth has not put any option as a preferred option on the table. We're, essentially, we're engaging in good faith in the conversation with all of the state and territory governments. Our objective is very clear. We want to achieve an improvement in the tax mix. We want to ensure that our tax system is more growth friendly. We want to ensure that the necessary revenue for government to fund the important and necessary services provided by government is raised in the most efficient, least distorting way in the economy possible. But there's still a way to go.
So is it the government's intention then to announce the full tax reform plan, including any tax cuts and compensation in the budget?
Well, our intention is to take a tax reform package, our agenda to improve our tax system, our agenda to make the tax system more growth friendly. Our intention is to take that to the next election for the Australian people to be able to pass judgment on, so that we would get a mandate and implement that after the next election.
Could you introduce the details, though, in the budget with the actual effect of any changes to come into effect after the election, so that you can seek a mandate and in the process sort of explain it to Australians?
Well, again, you're getting ahead of yourself. The budget is obviously due on the second Tuesday in May, as it always is, and obviously it depends on when certain decisions are made as to whether that will be reflected in next year's budget or whether it will be reflected in next year's half-yearly budget update. At the moment, obviously, we're focused on the half-yearly budget update for 2015-16. We are also involved in the conversation with the Australian people and with state and territory governments around how we can improve our tax system, depending on the timing in terms of when we reach certain landing points, when we actually make specific decisions. Then that will be reflected in the relevant budget or budget update at the earliest opportunity.
Okay, well, looking ahead to that mid-year budget update, which is going to be released on Tuesday, what spending does the government have to pay for in that statement? We've had a few things like the innovation statement, the cost of relocating Syrian refugees and the like. Is that the sort of thing we're talking about, and how much does it equate to?
Well, obviously the specific numbers will be released on Tuesday when we release the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook. But as a matter of principle, wherever we have incurred higher expenditure on comparatively higher priority areas, we have more than fully offset that by reduction in expenditure elsewhere. So our focus in this half-yearly budget update continues to be, as it has been in every budget and budget update since we came into government, we are focused on controlling expenditure and on strengthening growth, because that is the way that over time we'll be able to get our budget back into balance.
Will it show that the government is in a better, that the budget, I should say, is in a better position, or have commodity price falls and the like actually eaten away revenue so much that the budget is going to be in a worse position?
Well, what it will show is that the policy decisions taken by the government overall have improved the budget bottom line since the budget, but obviously there's always a range of various ups and downs in any budget. There's always a lot of swings and roundabouts at any time. Some things that are outside of our control, I mean, everybody knows, it's a matter of public record that the price of iron ore has continued to fall. Obviously, iron ore is our biggest national export earner, and when you've got falls in the price of iron ore to the extent that we've continued to experience since the budget, then that self-evidently is going to flow through in terms of revenue. So again, I mean, what the specific numbers are going to be, that will all be reflected and revealed in the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook on Tuesday.
So spending may have been reined in somewhat, is what you're suggesting, but the deficit may actually be higher.
Well, we are focused on controlling expenditure, that's right. So where we have either made judgments to increase spending on comparatively higher priority areas, or where we've been required to increase expenditure, we have been focused on reducing any spending increases in one area with spending reductions in other areas, and we've certainly been able to stick to that discipline. But by the same token, there are obviously broader developments in the global economy. There are broader developments in terms of our terms of trade, in terms of the price we get for our key commodities like iron ore, that have had an impact since the budget on the revenue side. I mean, that is not some major revelation. I think that everybody well understands that. These are things that are essentially outside of our direct control, so we've got to work to ensure we're in the strongest possible position to deal with these sorts of challenges when they come our way.
It sounds like you're all but confirming that the deficit will be higher.
I'm not confirming any numbers. I'm just explaining to you some of the challenges that we've been dealing with, and I'm explaining to you the strong commitment that we've maintained to control expenditure and to ensure that we continue to improve our position in the context of the policy decisions we're making. I mean, so the things that we control, we've continued to focus on making sure that we improve our position. The things that are outside of our control, well, obviously, I mean, these trends are there for all to see.
So does the government then now accept that getting the deficit down is not your number one priority?
Well, I mean, our number one priority always is to strengthen growth and create more jobs. And as part of strengthening growth and creating more jobs, obviously getting the budget under control, getting the budget on a sustainable foundation for the future is an important part of achieving that objective. So we continue to focus on getting the budget back to balance, getting the budget back into surplus as soon as possible. But we're obviously doing it in an economically responsible fashion.
And just briefly on election timing, Goldman Sachs says that there's a, quote, economic incentive to go to an election in March or April because of the double jeopardy situation of a sluggish economy expected next year, and also demands by ratings agencies to curb rising debt. Any truth in that? The election is due in the second half of next year, and we've got a lot of work to do, and I would have thought that our intention is to serve the full term. And the second point I would make is that we are optimistic when it comes to the economic outlook for Australia. I mean, Australia's is obviously in a period of transition from a resource investment-driven growth to more broadly based growth, and I mean, we're going through that transition quite well, and we're optimistic about what lies ahead for Australia in the future. Finance Minister Matthias Cormann, thanks so much for joining us, and that is our last chat for the year. It's been great talking to you all throughout the year. Do appreciate it.
Always good to talk to you.